welcome back to another episode of the Nova Files. Today I'm here with our buddy from Creepy Trees. I'm Peter from Medallion Comics.
And I am Dylan from Creepy Trees Inc.
Awesome sauce. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. I just marathoned a bunch of new cartoons the other day. I marathoned the new He-Man show.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there's another one they made that has more of a Power Rangers vibe that just came out like this week. And the other show I marathoned was something called Party Ants, some new Netflix show.
Okay.
Basically, a nephew moves in with his aunt in Chicago, and she's like a party white trash girl, and it's just stupid humor and fun.
But you can't. There's nothing wrong with a bit of that every now and again.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. You know, it's like the thing that I do like about animation right now is that they're making more adult-oriented animation these days, because like obviously things like the Simpsons and Family Guy did well, but now you can get away with doing something a little bit more mature via streaming. Like heck, did you ever watch BoJack Horseman?
I never really got into it.
No, but I'm just getting to the point that they can make more adult stuff now.
Oh yeah. Well, there used to be one that I thought was really good, and it was a bit ahead of its time. It's called Stressed Eric.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
That was like from when I was a kid. I remember they showed a few episodes like in on YTV. It was the local station here in Montreal. And I remember seeing a few episodes of it, and I'm like, wow, this is messed up.
But it's great the way that a lot of that stuff now, like that used to only be reserved for 10 or 11 p.m. is now it is much more acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, as you're saying?
There was one episode of Stressed Eric that I could never get out of my head. It's the episode where like an old friend of his comes back into town and they're trying to have sex, and they just keep getting interrupted at every single opportunity.
Yeah.
And then the girl leaves, and he's like just blue balled all the way to hell.
Yeah, no, stuff like that I think is brilliant. But as you were saying, like just the fact that we have so much access to that now is great, and you don't have to feel like well, not to feel, but like say for example, I obviously I have a 4-year-old son, and so you're watching cartoons all the time, and you don't mind that, but sometimes you do want something that might have a little bit more to it.
Mm-hmm.
So we like, what did we watch quite recently? Like Over the Garden Wall.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Which is brilliant. Like it's not adult focused in any way, shape, or form. It is still a kid's kind of fairy tale cartoon, but it's just all that. There's more ambience to it. There's more depth to it, and there is elements where you're a little bit like, there's not a single child watching this who understands that joke.
Well, that was basically watching Disney movies when I was a kid. It's like I remember there was one joke the genie said. It's like, oh, I didn't think the earth was supposed to shake until the honeymoon. I didn't get that as a kid.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, but it's true. Like they're putting a lot more effort into these things, because you also got to remember the people who are making these shows now are people who grew up with cartoons and from our generation.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
So these are people who grew up with cartoons who want to make even better cartoons.
Thank the good Lord.
There's a few shows that I'm watching right now that I am kind of enjoying. They're both Disney shows, but they're really fun. One's called The Owl House, and the other one's called The Amphibia. Very similar premise. They're basically isekai shows where somebody gets sucked into another world of magic and wonder, and it's just they're getting very interesting right now. They have both female lead protagonists. Interesting worlds, interesting premises. I like them. They're good stuff.
Okay, I might check that out. I just started watching American Horror Stories.
I heard of that. How is that?
Well, there's only 2 episodes in, but it was like I like the idea of it being now, single episode, single story kind of thing. I have been a big fan of American Horror Story since it started. But like that, got the Roanoke season in particular, I really checked out on. I was like, no, it's not really for me anymore. But then it kind of came back. Apocalypse wasn't that bad. And then Cult was obviously probably nearly as good as season 2, which is the best season of the whole thing. But more back to the point, this starts in a very similar place as season 1. Which I kind of thought watching the episodes, like, yeah, no, they are really good, they're enjoyable, but it's kind of like the whole point of this was to start moving away from that. You know, I understand the need for the callback, but you dedicated a whole season to this in particular at the very start of this whole thing. Don't go back to it. There's no need to go back to it.
Some
Put it
people
somewhere else.
just do what works, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is coming from a guy who writes like every book I've written now is set in a forest. So
I was actually going to ask,
Yeah.
I'll ask that later, but like, I'm just curious, is it all the same forest and we're just going through different parts of it? Is it like an interdimensional forest?
I kind of, well, no, this wouldn't really be spoiling anything. So I have 2 main books, which is Within the Woods and Nightlands. And they are both intended. Nightlands is intended to be a longer running series. So while there's only 1 issue out, like that first issue took like nearly 3 years, well, more than 3 years to write. So it's something that it's going to take a lot of time. But the idea of the forests, they're all the same.
Okay, good to know.
There's like 5 people who have read the books who are now like, what? The main point being that I kind of have this thought that that I live with, really, which is like, what if this was all a dream? So the point of that being is we have all these spaces around us where we have just quiet and reflection, and I am from Ireland, and I grew up in a place called Wicklow, which is sometimes referred to as the Garden of Ireland because it's a lot of forest, it's very green, and there was a forest woods around the back of my parents' house that I would spend an awful lot of time with. Yes, we'll say with. And there are points in it where the forest could be full of people and you will not hear a thing.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And so that's something that's always really struck me as, what if this is one of those places where, it's not real, but it's this singular place where you can go and just realize that there's something else. The universe is telling you this place is not real, but we're giving you this to realize it.
Okay.
So which that idea kind of really comes into play in Nightlands in particular, because it's actually a main point. Whereas Within the Woods, I think overall it has a relevance to the story, but that's more about like the deepest, darkest part of the woods, where traditionally if we go into them, we would get scared because yes, there is no real light, and so there's much more of a theatrical sense with that. But the basic premise of it all is that usually with my stories, when you're in the woods, you're actually in a dream.
Okay. Well, to be fair, a lot of like the most common North American horror stories, revolve around people being alone at night in the woods. There is a certain primordial fear to the woods themselves. I'm like, there's some popular urban myths in North America, the Jersey Devil, that whole Blair Witch thing, which was the movie, but people believe things in the woods.
Yeah.
But in that case, why don't we start talking about them? So I read Within the Woods, Nightlands, and Lady in the River. I'm going to share my screen. I have them open, so we can show a little bit. Obviously, I'm not going to show everything, just so people who are watching can get an idea of what we're talking about. And
cool.
Sharing. So this is number 1. This is Within the Woods.
Yes.
So I'm just going to show the first 3 pages. So why don't you tell me a little bit about this book first?
Within the Woods, came about twofold. I wanted to tell a haunted house story,
Mm-hmm.
and I also wanted to tell a story of the feeling of losing someone who you really care about.
All right.
So that, as a result, then the two kind of merged, and myself and my fiance went. I brought her to the woods that I used to go to all the time for the first time ever, and she was noticing all the things that I was noticing. Like it's really quiet. You can see other people, you can't hear a thing, all that type of jazz. And I said, I felt a little bit inspired because I was thinking about the book at the time. I was thinking about the haunted house elements of the book.
Yeah.
And I said, right, do you know what? I'm going to use you as a model. Like a lot of this, it's really a story about what if I lost you? So how about this? If you're willing, I'm going to lose you in these woods. And that's what we did. So I followed her around with my phone. I took photos of her and a video of it. This is going to sound awful, but she agreed to it. This is part of it. So she basically went deeper and deeper into the woods on her own and didn't know where I was. And so, like, even though the drawing is very rudimentary and early on for my career in this, all those shots, it was like, yeah, I was behind her. She didn't know I was behind her. I was like buried behind a tree or was in a bush or something like that. I was running around her the whole time.
Dude,
so
it sounds like you were really playing with fire, man. Because you want a horror movie, that's how a horror movie starts. A couple in the woods being idiots.
But I think it makes it more genuine. It's like, what's the best thing about the first Alien movie is that they didn't actually know when the alien was going to show up.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm just joking because
Oh yeah.
if anything bad's gonna happen, it's when you do stuff like that. But
So
I remember that, yeah, like the whole like chest burster thing, like no one knew that was happening. It was just like those are genuine reactions.
Yeah, so I thought it's like, I had this something went off in my head where it was like, this is true artistic integrity. David Lynch would be proud of this. And so it really became about, that's why I kind of subtitled it as The Fear. So I initially wanted Within the Woods to be about the stages of grief and loss.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as I write Within the Woods too, I don't know if that's going to be retconned yet. So I'll say no more on that. But the basic premise is about loss, and loss and not being able to let that go.
Okay. So I got a chance to read it. I did enjoy it. We did talk a little bit about it yesterday via message, but I think my main critiques is simple. One, the lettering. So you need to maintain some consistency. The beginning is a little bit slow, but once it gets going, it gets going. And you do have some horror elements in this, and this is a brand new franchise. So I would recommend adding a little bit more of that horror element right on the cover, especially.
Okay.
If you got the monster on the cover, like even if it's just in the shadows, it's already, how do I put this? It's already implying something's coming before you even start the story.
Yeah.
All right. I did enjoy it. Like I said, those were my only complaints. A bit of a slow beginning by the time I realized what was going on. And another thing I would recommend is, because I know you're going full black and white, which is great, but maybe also look into, how do I put this? In comics, sometimes they have like not different colored text boxes, but like different feels to certain text boxes to represent certain things.
Yes.
Yeah. Considering a lot of your elements are happening in the forest in a dream, take advantage of that.
Yeah. Who was I reading? I was reading a book recently where I think it was a Brubaker book. I can't quite remember. Was it Femme Fatale or something like that? Where it's like, if you've ever read it and you see every thought box and then every speech bubble and everything like that. Like for basically the thought boxes, like the color highlight and the shape of the box not only tells you who's thinking it, but also tells you like tells you the ambience around their state of mind.
Yeah.
I say I love a good thought box, but there was just that element of everything was a little bit different because it heightened something a little bit more. So I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and considering you have a lot of things that play into the dream elements, into the forest itself, it's just an element you should take advantage of. Because you do have a lot of shifting of what world we're in, and just having a visual representation of that could help.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, I have a bit of a similar critique for Lady in the River.
Yep.
Oh, I'm at the end right here, so we're just gonna. Once again, I like what the cover is, but you want something that's gonna, how do I put this? Pop a little more.
Yeah.
Like if I could say maybe having her silhouette in the water or having her eyes in the water, something to add that level of scare.
Yeah.
This story was this is more of a short story from what I get. Why don't you tell me a little bit about this one?
So this is actually I am currently doing a series of short stories that are based around based around a character you haven't seen yet in Within the Woods.
Okay.
And because I had I know, as I probably spoken on a podcast before, is that I know how all my stories are going to end.
Which is always a good thing before you get started.
Yeah. So I work kind of twofold, is whereas I jot down the initial premise, or just this one tagline about it, and then I finish it. Basically, I have the ending, and that way I kind of feel everything in between can come very naturally, or it can change if it wants to change, and when I wrote the initial script for Within the Woods, it was actually a lot longer than the first book there. But what came about was then I felt there was people who show up who had no explanation to them in the whole script. And so I said, instead of making the one book even bigger and taking even longer to get it out, why don't I do this series of short stories, which can then jump in? There can be characters from Within the Woods in it, but there'll also just be characters who you won't see in Within the Woods, but will explain the whole situation better of what's actually going on.
Okay, I like that.
And that is actually, because I've mentioned the name a few times, but that's going to be, that actual series of short stories is under the banner of House of Nothing.
All right. So let's take a little bit of a look at Lady in the Woods. Now here, I noticed you use more of a digital lettering.
Yes.
Which is good, but how do I put this? When you look here, you can tell like you squish the words and all that. The lettering still needs a little bit of work, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But you're on a better path here. Is just you need something that matches the story, but also doesn't look like an image that's been squished to fit.
Yeah, the lettering is a journey in itself, really. So much respect to letterers. As I messaged you last night, it's like the debate of will this be the bubble that just has standard Comic Sans, even then some of my friends who I would send on stories or who occasionally write with me, I'd be like, guys, this is the one. Times New Roman. Let's get on it in comic books.
Actually, on that topic, and we're actually gonna bring back one of my critiques from the last one, is the use of different styles for lettering, because you have the lady, I'm assuming here, talking in bubbles. Yep. Nothing differentiates them from the rest. In that, considering we have maybe something a little bit more ethereal talking here, having that different vibe would always benefit. And my own, I actually like this one. It's good. It's a short story. It's very to the point. It's easy to follow. I like it. The only thing I would do is the lady talks too much. And that's gonna sound horrible to say, But I find with characters like that, less is more.
I get you though. Yeah, that's it. Even yeah, just looking at the comic again, because I haven't read it since it went up on the website,
Yeah.
and I can see that straight away. Actually, it's like, wow, she talks a ton in this book.
Yeah, I'm just saying for a creature like her, the appeal is in the mystery.
Hmm.
And I'm seeing, like, I'm not going to show it because I don't want to spoil the end of the book right now for people who are watching. I just find it's more like she's singing a song, and it's very repetitive. When you should be thinking more about having her recite a poem, so something a little bit more short and to the point.
Hmm.
And yeah, besides that, I do like your art. It's got a very indie grunge look and has it stand out. But I would recommend maybe, I know this sounds silly to say, maybe add some red into your color palette from time to time. I find, especially with black and white books, when there's a little bit of red to emphasize something really bad or really horrible, it always sticks out to me.
Well, that was actually something I was
But that's an artistic choice that you would make, yay or nay.
yeah, I was thinking about it initially because obviously I'm working on one now, and as I was saying to you, so there's all bubbles lettering will all be completely digital. So I've just focused on the artwork, and now entering into just that. Just even thinking of adding in, the gray tones, like that very manga kind of
Yeah,
zip tone kind of stuff as well, even just to see. But yeah, I understand what you're saying of just that, like, especially with my artwork. So my background is actually etching.
Yeah.
And with that, I can see even see it here looking back. It does need something a little bit more to stand out with occasionally. Yeah, so maybe some type of splash of color or something like that.
oh goddamn Bane, why am I on Bane? There's something I just wanted to show you quickly. It's a bit of what reminds me of your arts. If we're gonna compare it to manga, there is a manga that does remind me of it. Have you ever read Gantz?
I have. I haven't deep dived into it, but I have read parts of it.
It has a very unique art style, all the black and whites. See if we can find some
I
comparison.
love that Gene Simmons is just popping up there in the middle of all this.
Because why not, right?
Oh yes.
Oh God, I'm still in goddamn Bing.
Shout out to Bing users, all 6 of you.
All right, I just want to get a good example.
Just as a side note, while you're doing that, we've on one of the streaming services, they have that show Bones, and we were watching it the other night, and it was just around the height of Bing when they were really trying to push it, and there was one of those awful blatant advertisements for it.
Oh yeah.
And you're just like, oh, I binged it. As the laptop turns, you're like, for fuck.
So I'm just saying, like, this is some of the black and whites of it that really made it stand out. Obviously, this is a little bit gory here, but it's all comics, so none of this is real. Disclaimer right here, none of this is real. And of course, yeah, because manga. Anyways, that just to make my.
Let's get into it. I'm currently going through Berserk.
Oh God, yeah, Berserk. Oh boy, that's something I can definitely not show on the screen.
I'm chapter 4 of 364.
And didn't the creator of Berserk pass away this year?
Yeah, he did. Like apparently of I think it was a cardiac problem, but not uncommon in the mangaka community.
Well,
apparently, as I was watching a kind of little, I think it was a YouTube video or something that was like half an hour long about this whole, like, the culture of being a mangaka is basically you work yourself to death.
It's a very Japanese culture thing, that especially. From what I've noticed, just a quick tangent. The difference between manga creators and comic book creators is quite simple. The manga can be a one-man show, so something like what you're doing. This could be put in something like Shonen Jump.
Yeah.
But comic books are like huge industries where everyone's basically working on everything. Well, like, hey, if you get a job at this company, you're going to work as a letterer on like an established comic book that's still running or established characters. People aren't necessarily bringing in constantly new ideas, and that's something I do prefer about the manga industry. In that every year, like, hey, we have 50 new stories from different creators. They're going to have this much of a run. What's doing well? What's not? Okay, this one's doing really well. Let's continue it. This one barely has any views, so we're going to end it after a certain amount of issues. But everything is more or less given a fair shot.
I think that's one of the things that draws me to it the most. Like I'm not like, I wouldn't say I have a desire to be a mangaka, or the, you know, if Shonen Jump actually want to, you know, take one of these, that's fine by me. But I would completely agree with you. I like the fact that things are actually given time. You know, it might be a very short window. Like, look, you have 3 chapters, and you read some mangas and they're like, a chapter only might be 5 pages, but get it in by Sunday, and let's just see how popular it is.
Yeah. And then you have stuff like, hell, One Piece is still running, but that's like one of the exceptions to the rules. You have like some of these big series that would start and end. Like Sailor Moon had a beginning, middle, and end. Dragon Ball did for a long time, but then they kind of revitalized it because that is one of the biggest money-making franchises of all time.
Yeah.
But I mean, stuff like Naruto ended, had a sequel series. Bleach ended. Hunter x Hunter. I can go into obscure stuff, but I just can't name everything off the top of my head right now. But like these stories, you know, they come and go, and then you got the new hotness. All right. The Western comic industry has been overrun by the same groups over and over again, which doesn't always give a chance for like smaller things to shine. But you do have exceptions to the rule, like Invincible, which got its own TV show, The Walking Dead, which was a comic book. You have a bunch of like smaller indie books, but it's just the way our market is here compared to there.
Yeah, it's something that does drive me crazy, because it's like that when you thought you have basically the big guys who control everything, and there's certain ones, like I watched, what was I looking at, who published it the other day, but it was about Blade as a character, and Blade has not actually had a proper run of a solo series.
I believe it.
He's had 3 movies. He's been part of multiple teams. He's in one of the newest video games they've announced. But even now, as they have like a hugely successful, amazing actor, who I believe he also won an Oscar, and there is still no mention of that character getting a full run of a solo series.
Well, that's because like a lot of books come and die on arrival.
Yeah.
You know who had the longest running female lead series in Marvel for the longest time?
No, who's that?
Spider-Girl. So for the longest time, she had the longest running comic series with a main female character. It was an alternate universe character, Mayday Parker, who was the daughter of Spider-Man and Mary Jane. It was the MC2 universe. It was fairly popular for a good amount of time, but the problem is that she's not a character that can be easily marketable because she's the daughter of one of the main characters who they refused to age up. So they just had to end the series at some point, and they just got to find other ways to use the name, because they can't bring her into the main universe because that means aging up the main universe.
Yeah.
So, hey, we have this very popular character from a sequel series. Crap, we can't do anything with the sequel series because that means we have to like change our established characters. Which is something I do prefer about the Marvel movies, in that when an actor is gone, he's gone. They can't go back to that well. They're going to have to move forward.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing a what if.
Yeah, but even that, like the fact that they changed the like a lot of the voice, even the actors were like, I'm not going to come back and do the voice.
Yeah.
Like Downey Jr. again, proving that he really knows what he's doing, and that like I've done in his comment of like, I have literally done everything I can do with that. Why would I come back and do the voice of it?
Yeah. Well, and also, you know, they have a bunch of voice casts for these characters through video games, through ad TV shows, cartoons. So it's like, hey, the guy says, you know what? I'm not into voice acting. Because voice acting is a whole different skill set compared to regular acting. So maybe just like, hey, you know what? I don't need it. You know what? Let some other guy get the money out of it.
But that's it. Yeah, what should we see recently? I mean, yeah, I've been trying to get my 4-year-old into Dragon Ball.
Yes.
And there was a compilation clip on YouTube of, I can't remember the actor's name, who's been the voice of Goku for God knows how long, but it was a compilation of his screams.
Scott McNeil? No, I'm thinking about something else.
No, hold on, I have to find it. And it was a combination of all his kind of like top screams, do you know?
Sean Schemmel.
Yeah. And
and his scream going Super Saiyan 3, he literally passed out.
It's just like, this is amazing. Do you know, this I want that job. It's like, who used to be really big in that? He was in all the Metal Gear Solid. Ted Tuscarero or something, I think was his name. But yeah, just anyway, just wow, just skills in themselves. Do you know, to go to then bring it to wind it back so it's not a Dragon Ball fan fest.
You know, I always thought if I ever had kids, I would make sure they grew up on the cartoons I watched, because I just think, like, you know, ageism aside, like, yo, dude, like, we grew up with so much better stuff than what's on TV right now. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna sit down with my kids and we're gonna watch Samurai Pizza Cats together. We're gonna watch Looney Tunes. We're gonna watch OG Digimon. We're gonna watch OG Pokemon. We're gonna watch OG Dragon Ball. Like, not even Dragon Ball Z. You find the like original Dragon Ball series with like where they're actually hunting for the Dragon Balls. Goku's still a kid. You start them from there, and then you go up to Super.
It's like, we're gonna follow the same path your dad did.
Exactly.
30 years worth of this one cartoon.
Yeah. We're gonna watch some Beast Wars.
We've done that with Pokemon. He's seen
really?
he's seen the original series. He wasn't mad on it. There's one at the minute, Sun and Moon, that he is quite fond of, but it's much more, you can actually see the difference in that whole difference of how things are marketed to kids then and now. Like the one now, it's very, you know, poppy, very of the moment, chimey. Nothing's too sad. There's never any real peril. Because the odd time, if we can find it, we'll watch the real Ghostbusters. And that again, it's just that's a world unto itself. But he's not. There are times he's really in the mood for it, and there are other times, because there are episodes in that where the music kicks in, you know, that we're genuinely very creepy, I think. And especially now, the way all these cartoons are now, and they're very poppy, they're very quick. It's actually all very anime in that regard. That there's no peril and there's no real room for atmosphere. Whereas, like,
depends on the type of show you're watching.
Well, I'm talking especially like small children, like whereas we had like the Ghostbusters and things like that, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and now a lot of those shows, while some of them are still good, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoons.
The one from the late 2000s, there was one in 2003 which I loved. I thought it was very mature. It took a lot of elements from the comics. There was literally an episode where Leonardo decapitates Shredder. But then it turns out that Shredder is actually a Krang. So it's like he's one of those like squids in a robot body. So they basically combine Krang and Shredder into one character. And then you have the last one before Rise of the TMNT, where it was just the Ninja Turtles. It was a 3D animated show, and it brought in elements from like the original series, from the comic books, and it got dark and it had some real edge to it. Like Splinter dies like 3 times in that show. And the third one, it sticks. And I think the series finale was a Mad Max tribute.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm telling you, man, like I think that had like several seasons. It's like, if you sit down and watch it, you are going to enjoy it. I find any Ninja Turtles fan will enjoy it, because like they even bring some like stupid like references from like the toy line. Like there's a Mutagen Man. What else? they bring in Bebop and Rocksteady, but like modernize them, and they even have a crossover with the original Ninja Turtles team.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because from what I understand, the original voice actor for Raphael in the original series is playing Donatello in this one.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, let me just find a quick little picture of it. I gotta be careful with what I share on my screen because I have way too many things open and some things that are not suitable for a young audience. But basically look up Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from like, find the 3D animated show.
Yeah. Yeah, no, well, I have some time now this evening, so.
My young nephew, he grew up watching that and he really liked it. And oh, another thing that we watched together when he was younger, Sonic Boom.
Oh, I feel that we've had that. I feel that we watched that recently.
It's surprisingly fun. Like Sonic is a good character. He's a good franchise character for younger kids because my nephew got into it by playing Sonic Dash on my phone, which I had at the time, which is like just a running app game. And then we found the Sonic Boom cartoon, and it's actually kind of funny. The entire Sonic Boom franchise was a complete mistake aside from that cartoon.
I know we actually watched the recent I say recent, how it was a year or two ago now, Sonic movie.
Oh, that was really good.
I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was very good. Like as one of those things, yeah, we all saw the original trailer and was like, Sonic needs to change, but they changed it, and I think it's actually a really good movie.
There's this joke that was going around for a while. It was a picture of Jim Carrey like with his back hurt and said like Jim Carrey reports back problems from carrying the entire movie.
He is brilliant at it though, but I love Jim Carrey as an actor.
It's like, of course I do. I love the way you make them.
A little bit though, I could tell you there's a little bit of I don't want to do this, but I want back out of the contract. Just a little bit in there. But he dominates
for his grandkids, from what I
understand.
But he's really good in the movie. I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with the sequel. And I think they cast who'd they cast for Knuckles again? It was a very prominent name. It was Idris Elba was cast as Knuckles.
I can see it though.
Yeah.
You know, I can hear his voice and picture that character at the same time.
I just sincerely hope Knuckles doesn't say, "Do you know the way?"
Who's Tails actually?
Oh, I think they got the same actor who plays Tails in the video games.
Okay.
Well, that's the thing, like, you don't need big names for voice acting. Just like get the actual characters who've been voicing them.
Well, I mean, Kevin Conroy is still the longest serving Batman as a result, really.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And I know what was it there? You remember they made that Scooby-Doo movie recently, where it's with like the Blue Falcon?
No.
Oh God, yeah. No, it came out like I think maybe a little bit before the pandemic started. It was Scooby, and it was like a 3D animated movie, and they got like all these professional actors to play the characters when you've been having the same voice actors who have been voicing them for over a decade now. And I think they got like the only person who they got to continue playing Scooby-Doo was the same voice actor who's Frank Walker, who is the voice of Megatron.
And also Scooby-Doo.
And Fred.
Do you know who actually, as Scooby-Doo actors go, or Scooby-Doo goes, I actually really like the Matthew Lillard movie.
Which one's that?
That's the one with Sarah Michelle Gellar, Frankie Prinze Jr.
Oh, the live action one.
Yeah. I actually think I enjoy that movie.
Okay, the first one is good, campy fun.
Yeah.
The second one I didn't like as much. The first one was like great. It was, as long as you don't take it seriously, it's really fun.
Yeah, it's like if you're going to do a live action, like you're going to do a live action Scooby-Doo movie, just enjoy the stupidity of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know. But then Matthew Lillard or Illard, he would be one of my favorite actors anyway. When he pops up in anything,
Yeah.
I think he's a bit of a, like, he does not get cast enough in things.
The what I think was the best Scooby-Doo revival movie or best Scooby-Doo reboot movie was Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, dude, it is amazing. It's like a 90s rock camp and everything. Like, and the thing is, it's like with real monsters and it's an actual good story. You feel it's a little too good for Scooby-Doo. But like they just kind of play with all the tropes of Scooby-Doo and then turn them on their head. It has a killer rock soundtrack. And it was like one of the first of like a new generation of Scooby-Doo movies where like they were actually having some horror elements added into it. Like the next one had witches, and the one after that had aliens. They had the Hex Girls, who were this recurring gothic witch band that would be in the Scooby-Doo franchise, appear in those movies. I know they did one recently where Scooby-Doo meets Kiss. And that one is like balls to the walls insane. Like Kiss is all apparently from another planet of like rock gods, and like they have to go there to save from like an intergalactic entity. And it's just like, I was watching with one of my best buddies who's like a really big Scooby-Doo fan, and we're just like, dude, what the hell did we just eat that's giving us a trip?
All right, that sounds like a good time. Actually, I must check that out.
But it's actually also become this weird trend recently with Scooby-Doo, where they're trying to retcon all the fantasy elements out of it. In that there's a new movie, Return to Zombie Island, which basically said, oh yeah, everything we saw on Zombie Island was just smoke gas and we were all hallucinating. Or where they have the Scooby-Doo and the 13 Ghosts movie that they did recently, saying, oh yeah, 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, yeah, we were all hallucinating. None of that actually happened. I'm like, why are you taking the fun out of this? But no, those are all those movies I don't particularly enjoy. Like the 13 Ghosts was actually kind of fun because it just poked at some old Scooby-Doo tropes. Return to Zombie Island I didn't watch because, as far as I'm concerned, it's non-canon. But no, because it also doesn't make sense, because in the original Zombie Island movie, they're all adults. They've all like retired from the whole mystery solving thing. They've gotten actual jobs, and they're just doing this as a kind of a last hurrah, because Daphne's now kind of like a TV show host, and she's saying like, oh, we're gonna do an episode on a mystery solving, and like we're gonna try to actually find some real monsters. So she's starting her own show, and she brought the gang back together. Okay. As a concept, like, oh, that makes sense. But then they go to Return to Zombie Island. It's like, oh yeah, we were doing a high school project. Like, girl, you are a TV host. Don't go back to high school. That makes no sense.
But that's what makes it make perfect sense.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and if we're gonna continue talking about Scooby-Doo, you're gonna like this because I know you love the creepy vibes. Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. Have you watched it?
No, it's on the radar though. It's I know it's out there. I do want to see it. It's really just a matter of sitting down to watch it. Really, I just haven't had the time lately.
Right. Let me sum it up. Scooby-Doo meets Lovecraftian horror elements.
Perfect.
That's all you got to know. And
yeah. Oh, yeah. It's been on the radar though, because I think again, bringing it back to the fact that I have a small child, him being able to watch it, like the fact that there's a talking dog into it doesn't matter. He won't be scared by anything else. It's like so I can get away with watching whatever is there, you know.
Fuck yeah, talking dog.
Yeah. You sit there going, but the dog's talking. Like, don't worry about Cthulhu. Yeah, no, not even there. Don't worry about it.
Oh, that actually reminds me. I was actually watching that new He-Man show the other day. Surprisingly, I have nothing bad to say about it. It's a really good show. It's a good reboot. I'd actually recommend it for kids, especially. It's very kid-friendly, which He-Man should be, because of the original. And there's this one line, because you have Cringer, who's a talking tiger, and like the bad guy's making fun of everyone, and then he gets to Cringer. It's like, well, what about me? I got nothing. You're a talking tiger. That's pretty cool. And everyone's like, why can the tiger talk? Well, the tigers in my tribe are just far more intelligent than yours. Just so I can say 5 words about that. Basically, think He-Man, but he shares the power with the Masters of the Universe. So the Masters of the Universe are getting their powers from He-Man, essentially.
Okay.
So like all like the like for example, in this version, Tila is a sorceress. She's an actual magician. So when she gets power from the power of Grayskull, she becomes like the actual sorceress with the wings and the scepter and all that.
Oh, that's a really cool way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing with Battle Cat. You know, when he gets the power, he becomes, you know, the obvious Battle Cat,
Yeah.
and he has his own abilities. He can make lightning claws. In this version, Ram Man is Ram Mam. So it's one of Adam's childhood friends. And it's actually a very interesting story. She, her and her family got into a crash, and their ship was buried. And the only reason she survived is because she was wearing her father's helmet, and she's the only one to survive. So I'm like, okay, we got good dark hero backstory. I approve.
Yeah, yeah.
So like for her, she's very protective of the people around her. So she gets like, she uses the helmet as the ram and all that. And she goes like, and she calls herself Ram Mam. She's like, what? Ram Mam? It's like, what can I say? The power of Grayskull makes me feel fancy. And then you have Duncan, who's Man at Arms, who's a child in this version, who's the same age as the rest of them. And he actually becomes like a mechanized version of the Man at Arms armor mixed in with a little bit of Roboto. So he's like the tech genius of the group.
Yeah.
And you know, He-Man gets his He-Man abilities. But one thing I find really funny about this series is that they all have battle animations and transformation animations. So it's like, I'm feeling like, wow, man, somebody went really into the anime well to do this, because every time they unleash their super attacks, they replay that stock animation. I'm like, dude, what am I watching here? Digimon? But I like it. I grew up on that stuff, so that's fun. The villains are actually really good in this series. They actually bring in the Keldor backstory for Skeletor, who is, long story short, Keldor is the brother of the king, who tries to usurp him by getting the power of Castle Grayskull. But in this version, because the power deemed him unworthy, it gave him the power of Havoc instead, you know, his Havoc staff. So in this version, he's actually not after the power of Grayskull. He's like, fuck that, that's bitch power. I'm using Havoc energy, man. I'm using Chaos energy. So I'm like, oh,
yeah.
cool. So
it's like, I must check it out.
Yeah. So I like the concept of that, because Skeletor is not fighting for the same power as He-Man. He says like, screw that power. That's like bitch power. I got the real stuff. And Skeletor's like design, it changes. So he goes from like human with some skeletal features to like the full blown like buff man, like campy ass Skeletor, which I love. And the villains actually have transformations too. So the villains start off with a very more plain design. And then the way it works in this series is that the different weapons of the different characters gets imbued with the power of Grayskull. So they use that weapon to transform. So how Adam has a sword of power, for example, the new sorceress Tila, she has her staff. The Ram Man has the helmet. Duncan has a wrench. And one thing they did with Cringer in the series that I really like, Cringer's not a coward anymore. What happened is that he was actually a regular tiger, but he got captured and declawed. So he doesn't have his claws anymore. So because of that, he's been like, he can't hunt, he can't do anything. So he's just been supporting people. So what happens is Duncan makes him some prosthetic claws, and those become his power-up weapon.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So what the villains do is they copy that. So they take all the villain weapons, and then they so the villains start off with like a very plain version of what the villain used to look like. And then they become the full-blown comic powered-up version of it. And I really like Evil Lynn's transformation, because it's so freaky. Like she has like these real like bad witch vibes going on when she transforms.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So like the thing is, you're seeing the villains throughout the series, but like you don't recognize them right away. Like Evil Lynn is Evelyn, and a Trap Jaw is Cronus, who is like just a regular guy, but then like he breaks his jaw, he puts like the metal thing. and then they transform into like their like over the top villain versions. Like Beastman's is like he literally breaks out of his body and he's like the Beastman now.
Oh, cool, like classic Wolfman kind of vibe.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that's probably what they're going for. So I liked it. It's 10 episodes. It's the first season. It's got some good vibes to it. I enjoy it. And I know it's gonna sound silly. This is gonna sound really bad, but I watched the other He-Man show. I like it. It has some problems, but I like it. But I think because of the negative reception of that show, people are gonna give this one way more benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I didn't like that other one. Normally I wouldn't watch this one, but like, maybe it's not so bad.
But it's like that kind of thing of when you see when things go, we're bringing it back and we're going darker. That kind of way, you do lose a lot of what initially made the thing work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like you have to even just to look to bring it back to other stuff in the context of Batman, where it's like we had Tim Burton's 2, then who came after Michael Keaton? It was Val Kilmer. And that was kind of okay, but you could see the turning point of where we've gone super dark and now we're going way too far. Didn't actually mind Val Kilmer's Batman. I think it's an entertaining movie. But you can see it's the turning point of like we're taking it from the super dark and turning it into what became like Batman and Robin.
Yeah. To the camp.
Yeah, and I think that was a little bit of my problem with the new Netflix Master of the Universe, where it's like you have taken a little bit of the fun out of it. There are certain characters who if you grew up with them, you do know, and you've gone in this little bit more of it's a tone darker. There was, as I see was pointed out a lot, there's a lot of queer baiting in the Netflix show, which it's this kind of thing of you've already made these assumptions about these characters and you kind of like there was just too much of that and to try and it's kind of Kevin Smith edgelord stuff, which made it lose a bit of the fun. So just to kind of confirm what you were saying, it's like when you have a show like that where you're watching it and it's pumped up this like spectacle thing, the fun of the original of like getting these stupidly named toys and like doing the same thing you saw in the cartoon, and then you have a cartoon now out that kind of does that. Like you can't beat a good transformation montage or anything like that. That's why we still that's why Power Rangers like series 152 of whatever they are now is still there.
Oh yeah.
Because you can't beat the original feeling of just enjoying a show. Not everything has to go darker because you will the odd time, it won't pay off. You will lose something about that.
Oh, for sure. Like I remember when you say like silly names, never forget there's a character in Masters of the Universe named Fisto, whose power is that he has a giant fist for punching things.
But this is but that's the fun stupidity of it. Why would you how could you turn around and go, we need to make this darker? It's like, no, you don't.
And you know what? Like He-Man did kind of become a gay cultural icon because, okay, if we're looking at the original series, there's a lot of gay undertones to Prince Adam and He-Man. Oh God, there was this old College Humor cartoon that I love. And it's basically all these superheroes saying like, does this outfit make me look gay? So Prince Adam's like, I like the color. I like the cut. He-Man, it's hot pink. Okay, how about now? He takes the sword, becomes the He-Man. All right, how about now? Orko's like, more gay. And then Skeletor comes up out of nowhere. Is like, I like it. Let's go clubbing. And then then the last shot is them clubbing together. And I'm just like, and then I remember there was also this commercial where like where He-Man and Skeletor are at a bar dancing together, and it's just like, what the fuck? And I just like I think it's funny as a concept. So like let them have that. Like it's what, I'm perfectly fine with that. But I do like look, you're either gonna make the character gay or you're not. Don't
Yeah.
bait people into it. You want to make Tila have a relationship with her new gal pal? Go for it. Do it. Don't tease people with it, because there's a lot of that that's been going around with some cartoons lately, because they're too afraid to fully commit, but also they just want to do it for brownie points.
I was talking to somebody about this recently in regards to the Haunting of series
Yeah.
and the second season, Bly Manor, where it's there ends up being this relationship in it, but these two characters went from like they never spoke, like they like they barely interacted, and when they did, they didn't like each other, to all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, it's like, well, now we're together. And you're kind of going like, you just did this. And it just, now the person I was talking to was like, I don't mind that. I appreciate that they threw it in there. And I'm like, but that's the problem. They threw it in there just to score a point.
Yep.
And
I think a good version of it is, I was mentioning that show to you earlier, the Owl House. A long story short, this girl comes from another world into a world of the demon realm, where she wants to learn to be how to be a witch. And her and this other girl are constantly at odds with each other, and she keeps messing things up. She keeps bothering her, but then the girl is always hating on her, is starting to develop a crush on her. So it's something that builds up throughout season 1, and you could actually see like, wait, you want us to play sports together in tight clothes with sweat? I gotta go. Like it's hilarious. And then in season 2, they actually start like hanging out more, and they start developing a relationship. And the creator said like, oh yeah, definitely this character is gay, this character is bisexual, because she's shown interest in men as well. So it's like, that's great, awesome. And like, they're actually, how do I put this? It doesn't feel forced. It feels what's happening in the world. No one's questioning it. No one's making it weird. You know what? They're doing it. It's built up. Great. Give somebody like actual representation, not token representation.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think it's I think that's the problem with a lot of things, where we still seem to be in this age of like, we've got 5 of these that we need to at least click on 2 of them, which is the most popular.
Yeah.
And I think we're all, I think we all consume all this media together. So I think there just has to be, well, obviously there won't be, because big studios, streaming services will hopefully just kind of go, look, no one's going to unsubscribe. It's either a show we're going to keep going with, or we're going to cancel it. So just do it.
Oh, for sure.
Don't worry about the box ticking. Just do it. You're either going to be successful, or the worst thing that's going to happen is, like all successful shows that we cancel them.
Yeah. I think a good example of this gone wrong recently, there's a new cartoon that came out called Q-Force.
Yes, I have seen the banner. I haven't watched it though.
Long story short, this guy in the army, Navy, like some kind of top secret spy thing, comes out as gay, and then they relegate him to a basement team with all the other gay people. And how do I put this? Nobody likes it, not even the gay community. From like a lot of people who are straight was like, I don't know, this doesn't really resonate with me. And then they check with the gay people, and they're like, yeah, this doesn't resonate with us either. Obviously, I could be wrong. This is from the things I've heard, so I will fully admit to. I am the type of person who will fully admit to being wrong if I realize, hey, maybe the stuff I was looking at was not the best. But generally speaking, from what I'm realizing, no one likes the show. So it's like, okay, that's trying too hard.
But that's, yeah, it's another part of that. It's like, again, but it's all still the box ticking. I think as well, the thing we have as indie creators is really, we aren't. Yeah, we want people to read and engage with this stuff,
but we can do what we want.
We have that thing of like, so yeah, it's all well and good me sitting here going, just push the button, just do it. What are they going to do? Cancel the show? It's fine. You still got it out there a bit. When I don't have something on a streaming service.
I have a planned relationship for 2 of my characters, who is how do I put this? I like to describe this character as a bisexual hot mess. In that any relationship she gets into, she always finds a way to sabotage it. And the only, how do I put this, healthy relationship she's going to have is with an actual demon. And that just like, of course, the only good relationship I have is with the succubus. But no, that's something planned for later on. But it's like, just if you're gonna just have fun with it, don't make it weird, make it natural.
Yeah, exactly. It's something like kind of where what I wanted in Nightlands is a bit like that, where it's kind of like we're not going to be afraid to hide the situation. From now on, moving into like again, we're still writing issues. We're trying to basically do a lot back to back, so it's like issues 2, 3, 4, and 5 will probably all be written together.
Nice.
In one big mess of a thing, and then we'll kind of dish it down. Because I know one of the guys. Sorry, I have no fingerprints for some reason at the minute. My phone won't let me do anything.
So I'm the same. Like I don't never put fingerprint stuff on anything because my fingerprints are so like hard to read. I used to work briefly with a security company where I was taking people's fingerprints for security background checks for the government. So they would have to put their fingerprints on their hands on a machine. It would scan their fingerprints. You would have to make sure you got a good scan because of this, and this reason. But my hands never scanned correctly on it. And it's just like, oh, well, I don't know what it is with your hands, but like we can't really read your fingerprints really well. So I'm like, if I start putting my fingerprints on scanners, like I'm never opening that shit again.
It's just, I need to change that. But what was I saying? Yeah, so like one of the guys wanted to do a series of his separate short stories for that. So for the Nightlands thing, but overall, what the main premise of that is we don't want to just box tick with it. We want to be very brave and bold with that, moving on into the future.
And just like I said, make it natural. Don't force it. And you know what? At the end of the day, if you're writing a good story, it doesn't matter. Whether you have relationships or not, whether they're straight or queer, as long as they work in the world, as long as they're not forced, as long as they're not like, hey, this is my intention just so I can make you pay attention. It's like, no, just have it be there like anything else. Don't treat it differently.